So it'll be really interesting to see how, Bridgetown obviously has probably gotten familiar with the floor now, having played against TC earlier today. However, Gatekeepers with that home track advantage, and, well, let's face it, they've never lost here. So starting off for Bridgetown, it's on the jammer line. It's going to be Shreddy Mercury and Magnum PIMP for St. Louis. And Shreddy Mercury is going to get lead jam here early for St. Louis. I'm sorry, for Bridgetown. Magnum PIMP now finally completing his initial pass. Pack on the back straightaway, and Shreddy Mercury is going to call that jam off early. 4 points, however. So Bridgetown gets out first. 4 points there.
That's got to be a big confidence booster right away to someone that you've gone 0-4 against in your Derby career. For Bridgetown to come out and put that up the first jam, that's got to have them jazzed.
So it's going to be Lil Nino now on the La Beta Ruler Derby jammer line. And he'll be going up against Shane Bauer for St. Louis. Gatekeepers already in some penalty trouble, as I see Percy Control and Incredible Hulk sitting in the penalty box. So a 4-on-2 pack advantage in favor of Bridgetown, and they take advantage as Il Nino is your lead jammer. So 2 jams and 2 lead jams here for Bridgetown early. And that's, I believe, going to be another 4 points. Let's see. Yes, it is. 4 more points. So Bridgetown starting off strong here against the number 2 ranked St. Louis Gatekeepers.
Now you've got to worry about getting a little too jazzed up for things like that. You start getting a little too over anxious, get that adrenaline going. You start making mistakes, getting penalties. So when you want to ride that wave of adrenaline, but you don't want to crash.
Yep, so now on the jammer line is going to be Don Juan for Bridgetown, and that's going to be Debaucherous Prime or Corey Porter out there for St. Louis. St. Louis, the host team. This is the second time they have hosted the 2015 MRDA or the MRDA Championships. And again, Bridgetown gets lead jammer. So some struggles early here for St. Louis's jammer core, as Bridgetown taking advantage. Corey Porter now free of the pack on his initial pass. Don Juan calls that jam off wisely, and the Gatekeepers still not on the board. 13 points for Bridgetown. Next up for Bridgetown, it's going to be Bane Anna on skates, going up against Screech Around for the Gatekeepers.
Gatekeepers now with the 4-3 blocker advantage, so looks like they're going to try to take advantage of that. Screech Around, pushing out one more, does, and gets lead jammer for the St. Louis Gatekeepers.
However, Bane Anna quickly out of the pack himself. So 2 points, that's going to put the Gatekeepers on the board here. 26 minutes to go here in the first half. Bridgetown 13, Gatekeepers 3.
They always say the first half of the first half is a feeling out process. You got to wonder if St. Louis is obviously maybe just waiting for that momentum to subside, they know what they're doing. They're in control. And another lead jammer for, that is Magnum PIMP for the Gatekeepers.
So 3 points there for St. Louis.
Those jammers really living on that inside line so far this game.
Yes, they do.
Gatekeepers still with the 4-3 blocker advantage. Shane Bauer jamming for the Gatekeepers. El Nino jamming for Bridgetown Menace. Nino forced out by Stark. Stark being sent to the penalty box.
Oh, boy. And here we go. El Nino is going to head to the penalty box, and the Gatekeepers are going to have their first power jam of the game here. Shane Bauer has completed his pass, and he is lead jammer. So a full 30 seconds of scoring here for the Gatekeepers. Looking to chip away at the small lead, 7 points separating these two squads. Make that 2 as a grand slam here for Shane Bauer. Kyle Stark awaiting re-entry from the penalty box. El Nino on his feet, so he'll be returning to play soon. So Shane Bauer completing another pass. So now we have ourselves a lead change here. The Gatekeepers up 16-13. Shane Bauer scoring on another scoring pass. El Nino has re-entered play, approaching the back of the pack, coming out of turn 4. Shane Bauer with some nice moves up front going into turns 1 and 2. Only one blocker to beat. Looks for a spot, gets around the outside. So that's going to be another 5 points. Meanwhile, El Nino trying to get through on his first pass. Not sure what the call is. And it looks like... And yeah, we're going to have ourselves another power jam. I was waiting to make sure, but it looks like a high block. So El Nino is going to head to the penalty box again, and Shane Bauer continues to go on the offensive. 5 more points as that jam comes to its natural conclusion. So a big, big jam, 20-point jam there for Shane Bauer, and the Gatekeepers are now in this game in a big way.
Indeed. I love Bauer's approach to the pack. It's very slow, it's methodical, and then that quick cut. He gets the art of the juke. You got to sell it. And I love his slow approach. I hate when a jammer comes in fast and hard and just slams into somebody and picks up a nonsensical penalty.
Are you saying he slows his roll?
He slows his roll.
Just wanted to make sure that's where you were going with that. So El Nino will start this jam in the box. Corey Porter is your lead jammer with a nice little move. Corey Porter is one of those guys you're going to see. He takes full advantage of the rules and the fact that you can put one hand out of bounds and still be in play, and you're going to see that a lot. He actually will use it to fool opposing teams. He'll reach out of bounds on purpose. And now we're going to have a power jam here for Bridgetown. The low block called on Corey Porter as he tripped and went into the legs of a defender. But El Nino is going to head back to the penalty box again, but he had passed the panty off to Captain Obvious. So Captain Obvious is the jammer. Running into Percy Control and Incredible Hulk there coming out of turns 2. And Percy Control with a nice job. And Captain Obvious thought he had stayed in, but no, he's going to go to the penalty box. So a comedy of errors we're witnessing here as jammers head into the box left and right.
Yeah, the Bridgetown Menace was playing a great game and then got bit by the penalty bug. Both their jammer and their pivot, who assumed jammer, both ended up in the box in this jam.
And whoever was pivot for St. Louis is no longer such, as the pivot panty sits next to the antic pivot line. Not that it really matters, as I don't think Corey Porter is going to be handing that panty off anytime soon. There it is, another 4 points there for St. Louis. So that jam comes to its natural conclusion. The score now, St. Louis 35, Bridgetown Menace 16. And now we're going to have ourselves a timeout. Looks like an official timeout.
We'd like to thank Roller Derby Elite. Derby Elite, I am Roller Derby Elite for Derby Skaters by Derby Skaters. Also like to thank Turn Left, Turn Left. If we don't have what you need, we will ship it to you for free within the U.S. Excellent deal there, Turn Left. So yeah, the first 3 jams start out with lead jam for Bridgetown. They put up 13 points. The next 3 jams sees lead jammer go to, oh, excuse me, next 4 jams sees lead jammer go to the Gatekeepers, where they amass 35 points. So it's one of those things that it really was the penalties that just Bridgetown could not stay out of the box with their jammers.
Yeah, Gatekeepers showing a lot of patience in those first few jams, not trying to force anything and getting into a whole lot of penalty trouble. But then as soon as Bridgetown faltered a little bit, the Gatekeepers were there ready to pounce, and they have run the score up now. 35 points, as you said, over the last 4 jams. They score bunches. They score in bunches, those Gatekeepers do.
Bridgetown should use this official.
So it's going to be Don Juan now on the jammer line for Bridgetown, and he's going up against Screech Around. And Don Juan finds a line on the outside, quickly shoots through, and he's going to be your lead jammer. Bit of a defensive faltering there by St. Louis as they left that outside line wide open.
It was neat to watch him and Stark. Basically, Stark saw it from the inside line, and it was a foot race to try to cut him off, and just narrowly edged him out. 3 points picked up there by the Bridgetown Menace.
So next up on the Lebedo Ruler Derby jammer line, it's going to be Shreddy Mercury for Bridgetown, going up against Magnum PIMP for St. Louis. Shreddy Mercury up front being worked on by Percy Control and Monster Jam, and meanwhile Magnum PIMP finds a line on the outside. He's going to be your lead jammer for St. Louis. Shreddy Mercury has also completed his initial pass now as Magnum PIMP re-enters the pack. Let's see, did he call it off in time? He did. Magnum PIMP picks up 2 points for St. Louis, 0 points for Bridgetown.
Looks like we're going to have number 82, Munster, on the line for the Bridgetown Menace. That's going to be number 32, Shane Bauer, for the Gatekeepers.
Shane Bauer leads the St. Louis Gatekeepers right now in scoring. He has 20 of the Gatekeepers' 37 points. And looks like he's going to add to that total as he is your lead jammer. Oh, nice hit there by Spin Diesel. And that defense of the St. Louis Gatekeepers has just gobbled Munster up.
Youch. Number 357, that is.
So meanwhile, a grand slam.
Sorry about that.
So Bridgetown now shedding blockers. There has been a star pass from Munster to Tommy Gunn. That jam comes to an end. 2 more points there for Shane Bauer, so 7 points total on that jam. So with 17:13 on the clock, the score 44 St. Louis, 19 Bridgetown. Have to watch early here as El Nino already has 3 penalties on the board. He's one of the regular jammers for Bridgetown. And we're not even halfway through the first half.
Indeed.
So this is not a good sign for El Nino. Oh, and yeah, that's going to be a low block there on Hulk, Incredible Hulk, I believe. Yep.
Gatekeepers with 1 blocker out on the track.
So 3 points there. Next up on the Lebeda Ruler Derby Jammer line, it's going to be Don Juan for Bridgetown going up against Magnum PIMP for St. Louis.
St. Louis taking full advantage of the Derby Elite penalty box. With that, lead jammer does go to the Bridgetown Menace, to Don Juan.
So Magnum PIMP is also out of the pack on his initial pass. Don Juan on his first scoring pass.
Impressive show of athleticism there from Don Juan.
So next up, it's going to be Shreddy Mercury out there for Bridgetown, going up against Shane Bauer for St. Louis. Gatekeepers taking control of the back of the pack, letting Bridgetown work up front. Monster Jam and Nat King kill the last line of defense against Shreddy Mercury. Nice work outside. And they did not draw the cut. They tried. So Shreddy Mercury's your lead jammer. However, Shane Bauer has gotten out front. And Shane Bauer is now looking to kill the penalty on Nat King kill sitting in the penalty box. Some really heads-up play by Shane Bauer here as he's slowing Shreddy Mercury down, trying to run as much time off of that penalty as he could. Not quite enough. However, Nat King Kill does now stand in the penalty box, so heads-up play there by Shane Bauer.
Interesting, the earlier bout with Southern Discomfort and the New York Stock Exchange had 15 jams in the first half. We are at jam 14, and there is still almost half of the first half left. Very quick pace.
It's really a testament to the offenses of both of these squads, is even though, one team, they've been passing the jam back and forth, the opposing jammer each time has been able to get out pretty quickly afterwards and has really limited any big scoring opportunities by either squad.
So we've got El Nino jamming for Bridgetown Menace, and that's going to be Debaucherous Prime for the Gatekeepers. Speaking of Debaucherous Prime, the lead jammer for the Gatekeepers.
So now we're going to see a bit of an opportunity here as the Gatekeepers have done a nice job on Shreddy Mercury. They are now cycling him back, anchored by the Saint and Percy Control up front. They did a nice job cycling El Nino all the way back. Meanwhile, Corey Porter up front, working against Tommy Gunn. Number 82, Munster there, got a little bit of a run at Debaucherous Prime and just lowered his shoulder right into that soft underside of his rib cage there on his side.
You could see some labored breathing. So, yeah, I believe caught it right in the breadbasket, I guess, as they used to say.
So our EMT's over there looking at Debaucherous Prime. He looks okay as he gets up. It looks like he's no worse for wear, just a wind knocked out of him, so he's going to go take a seat. He did call that jam off, though, on his own power. So
that was very impressive. I wouldn't imagine being in pain and still having the cognitive capacity to be like, oh, I've got to call this jam off.
Yeah.
Great show of sportsmanship there by Jukebox Hero. You know, stayed with him, made sure he was all right.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that because Jukebox Hero, a former gatekeeper before he moved to Portland, so not too surprised by that. Referees have a quick huddle.
Head ref for this bout, mistrial. Speaking with the captains for the, alternates for the two teams.
Yeah, I don't see the signal for an official review, so I think they're just discussing the hit there by Munster. So it doesn't look like anything's going to come of that timeout. Just a quick official timeout to discuss some things there with the coaching staffs of the two squads, and we're going to get back in action here. And it's going to be Don Juan on the Lobeta Ruler Derby jammer line. I think that's supposed to be roller derby. I think I got some bad notes.
It happens.
Ruler derby makes no sense at all. So it's Don Juan out there for Bridgetown, and it's going to be Screech Around for St. Louis. And Screech Around does get lead jammer, but he's going to get sent back. But he quickly gets back in and is able to get out. He is your lead jammer. Meanwhile, Don Juan dealing with Monster Jam and Blood Zeppelin. Monster Jam forces him out, and quickly Blood Zeppelin drops all the way back to the back straightaway. Meanwhile, Screecheron gets a nice inside line. Is able to sneak through, and that's going to be 5 points, a grand slam for the Gatekeepers. Don Juan taking full advantage of a defensive breakdown there by the Gatekeepers, as there was a huge path for them to skate through. And now we're going to have looks like a misconduct there for hitting after the whistle. Did not see who that was on. So now we're going to have a timeout here by Bridgetown. Mulligan, why don't you talk about some of our fabulous sponsors here?
We would like to thank Lobeta Roller Derby. We bout that life since 1969. We'd also like to thank Radar. Radar Presto is the best wheel for nailing all types of stops. Nail your stops, Presto. It's been one of those situations where they started out hot, got in a little penalty trouble. This is Bridgetown, and St. Louis has put the foot on the gas and hasn't taken it off yet. Bridgetown still, obviously putting up quite a fight. I'm seeing a lot of very heavy hits out there. But yeah, it looks like Gatekeepers have finally found their groove in this game.
Yeah, I know this is going to sound terribly cliche, but the St. Louis Gatekeepers are one of those teams that as long as they can keep 3 or 4 blockers on the track, there's not a team out there that's going to put better defense. There's going to be some that put as good defense out on the track, But when the Gatekeepers have 3 or 4 guys on the track, they are really hard to get any kind of traction against. So it's going to be Magnum PIMP against Shreddy Mercury now. Oh, nice work there by Magnum PIMP as he stays inside on that inside line. And he is going to be your lead jammer. The Saint's going to be sent off for a clockwise block. And Magnum PIMP trying to work that outside line, gets forced out, calls that jam off. Picks up 2 points. So the St. Louis Gatekeepers perfectly content just grabbing 2 here and there, 2, 3, 4, and calling that jam off and letting that clock tick down.
You know, honestly, the Bridgetown Menace, aside from those 2 real big power jams, the 20-point and the 9-point, have done a great job of getting their jammer out and making sure that they're not getting full scoring passes. So jamming for the Gatekeepers, we have Shane Bauer, and it's going to be El Nino for the Bridgetown Menace. Bauer tries to take that outside line. It's a big hit. Now knocked to the inside.
So Kyle Stark and Spin Diesel trying to work on El Nino, but they eventually have to let him go. Shane Bauer has completed his initial pass. And he is lead jammer, so he's going to call that jam off after Saint leaves the penalty box. So no points scored, but the penalty on the Saint killed successfully. Some interesting strategy being employed here by the St. Louis Gatekeepers. Normally you would see them try to stretch these jams out a bit, but you've got to think that with the potential of having to play 2 games tomorrow, that maybe they're taking it a little easier here, just trying to grab a few points here and there and calling these jams off to try to run as much time off the clock as they can while they've got these leads. Try to conserve some energy.
Yeah, it's not important that you go out there and crush your opponent. You win, you win. And if you can conserve some energy for the next day of play, that sounds like a smart, sound strategy.
So David Metcalf out there jamming for the Gatekeepers here. His first time out there on the jammer line today. He's going up against Don Juan. Don Juan is going to be your lead jammer now. Incredible Hulk looking for a low block there, but did not get the call. Incredible Hulk looked a little perturbed since he was called for a similar low block earlier in the game, was wondering why he wasn't getting one his way there. But no call.
Just witnessed something that may not have gone on camera. Captain Obvious made sure that Don Juan went over and checked with the medics. He saw that he got his bell rung there a little bit, and nowadays getting your bell rung could easily be a concussion, so he wanted to make sure his teammate was all right.
So Screech Around gets out first, but it looks like he's being given a forearm penalty, so he's not going to be lead.
This is the first power jam that the Bridgetown Menace has had.
It's going to be a really short one, though, as Shreddy Mercury was sent to the penalty box just moments before. So Screech Around is back out already. So there will be no lead jammer. This jam will go the full 2 minutes. Defensive Destroyer and Tommy Gunn at the back of the pack giving Screecheron all sorts of problems. But Screecheron finds just a sliver of hope on that inside of turn 2 and gets through. So he has now completed his initial pass. Meanwhile, Shreddy Mercury putting points on the board just slams into the back of Spin Diesel. So Shreddy Mercury is going to get cycled back. Meanwhile, Screecheron with 4 points there for St. Louis. About 30 seconds left on the jam timer. So back block call there on Tommy Gunn's going to send him to the penalty box. 4-on-3 pack advantage now in favor of St. Louis. Screecher on, meanwhile, on the inside on the front straightaway. Oh, big tumble there as Shreddy Mercury takes a tumble over Nat King Kill. Ooh, big hit by Defensive Destroyer. I don't know what he's looking for there, but he's unhappy about something.
What I love about this venue, for the folks at home, just to get an idea, you can actually hear and feel every time somebody hits the ground.
Yes.
And so it just always seems so devastating when you see somebody just take that spill to the floor and you can feel it.
Yeah, a little bit of interesting history about this venue is this used to be an outdoor roller hockey rink that they literally just built a building around. So meanwhile, Magnum PIMP is your lead jammer. He's going up against Il Nino. So Magnum PIMP looking over to make sure the penalty box is clear after picking up 4 points and calls that jam off. So heads up play there by Magnum PIMP, making sure the penalty box is empty, because for a lot of this game it has not been empty.
Yes, the Derby Elite penalty box is getting a workout.
Yes. Next up on the Beta Roller Derby jammer line, it's going to be Don Juan for Bridgetown going up against Shane Bauer for St. Louis. Shane Bauer, the lead scorer right now for St. Louis, and Don Juan, the lead scorer for Bridgetown. So we'll see who comes out top here. Shane Bauer with a nice move on the outside line, and he's going to be your lead jammer. Tiptoeing through the tulips there, going into turn one is Shane Bauer. Don Juan still trying to get through, but Kyle Stark forces him out. Kyle Stark being sent off for a penalty. Meanwhile, Don Juan cycles back.
Don Juan is controlled chaos. When he gets into the pack, he's constantly moving, sometimes in 2 directions at once.
Yeah, he's like a little wrecking ball. Led Zeppelin now headed to the penalty box as well. So 2 players in the Derby Elite penalty box now for St. Louis, and this is where they tend to get themselves in trouble. Looks like Shane Bauer is going to try to run these penalties out. Meanwhile, Monster Jam going to work on Don Juan. Has to let him go. So Shane Bauer okay with letting some points get on the board from Bridgetown if it means getting the penalty box empty. So 4 more points there for St. Louis. A 13-point jam for Shane Bauer as he runs that jam long. 4 points for Bridgetown Menace and Don Juan. So the score now 90-31 in favor of St. Louis. 2:50 to go here in the first half. What has been a blisteringly fast-paced first half.
Indeed, we are now on jam to 21.
I hope our NSO sheets are big enough for all these jams.
I know my little doodle pad, I have it written out to 21. So I believe I'm going to have to write some more lines on here.
Yeah, my Etch-a-Sketch doesn't have any lines on it.
Quit shaking it.
I can't help it. I drink so much, I naturally shake.
The life of Hammer. All right, back to the action. We've got jamming for the Gatekeepers, Debaucherous Prime, and that is going to be Shreddy Mercury for the Bridgetown Menace. Mercury with 1 left to beat. He does, but a no pass, no penalty will deny him lead jammer.
So the Saints going to take a seat for a low block there. Tried to fall small, but was not successful. Oh, meanwhile, Corey Porter's out. 4 points there for Shreddy Mercury. So evidently, Corey Porter was out first. So he's going to pick up some points and call that jam off. I think yep, 4 points for each side. So Corey Porter's second one out, but he does get lead jammer. So Puts up 4 points to counteract the 4 Bridgetown put on the board.
The ref had initially waved him off, seeing as how he was the second jammer off, but then conferred with the other jam ref that, in fact, there was a no pass, no penalty for the Bridgetown jammer. So lead was awarded to
Did not see the infraction that kept Shreddy Mercury from getting lead jammer, but then again, I don't have the view those refs do.
They do have the best, I was going to say seats in the house, but no one's sitting down.
No.
Beautiful move on the inside line. Gets Magnum PIMP, lead jammer for the Gatekeepers.
Yep. Really unable to take advantage of it, though, as El Nino also quickly gets out. And Magnum PIMP is going to grab a couple points and call that jam off. So yet again, we see the Gatekeepers hit these packs quickly, grab a couple points, call the jam off, and just let 30 more seconds run off that clock. So ladies and gentlemen, you are about to see the 24th jam of the first half. And it is likely going to be our last one, barring some strangeness, as there's only 37 ticks on the clock here in the first half. A first half that has spent as much time not being played, likely, as has been played.
And it's going to be a power jam for the Gatekeepers.
Did not see the call, but it was a track cut on Don Juan.
One left to beat, and Cosmo Damage, who sends Metcalf to the inside. Big hit.
Metcalf has only had a couple jams here so far today, but he's struggled a bit with these big, strong blockers of the Bridgetown Menace.
That's Cosmo Damage towering over the rest of the pack. A large individual indeed. Bridgetown doing an excellent job on that penalty.
So Don Juan back on the track, Spin Diesel, Percy Control, and Blood Zeppelin, they're waiting for him in turns 3 and 4. Meanwhile, David Metcalf is your lead jammer now for St. Louis. A hard-fought lead jammer. Looking to put some points on the board now is Metcalf. Ooh, Jukebox Hero comes in and clears out Saint. It's not enough, though, as Don Juan not able to really take advantage of it. And now they're going to call the Saint for blocking out of bounds.
Don Juan taking the tumble to the outside on turn 1.
So a wild first half comes to an end. The Gatekeepers, however, are going to have 2 players in the box, 2 blockers. That's going to be Blood Zeppelin and the Saint are going to be in the box to start the second half. Our score, St. Louis 99, Bridgetown 37.
Was the Saint with 4. There's a couple of folks on Bridgetown Menace with 3, but honestly, they spread it out pretty nice and even amongst the teams.
So Shane Bauer jamming for St. Louis, quickly grabs lead jammer, and that's Munster out there for Bridgetown.
Nice move on the inside. Frees Munster on his initial pass.
So Shane Bauer, rather than recycle, just goes ahead and calls that jam off. Picks up 3 points there for St. Louis. Puts St. Louis at 115 points to Bridgetown's 37. Just over 27 minutes to go here in the second half. What has been a fast and furious game here. We had 24 jams, as we mentioned earlier in the first half.
First half scoring, Gatekeepers, Shane Bauer had 41. Then looks like Porter had 20. And Screech Around with 22.
Speaking of Porter, there he is with lead jammer for St. Louis. Meanwhile, Shreddy Mercury trying to get his way through. Only Blood Zeppelin left to beat, now joined by Nat King Kill. And a penalty called on Blood Zeppelin.
Speaking of Shreddy Mercury, he had 12 in the first half. Don Juan had 18, and Il Nino had 4. They were the main scorers for Bridgetown Menace.
So a track cut call on Corey Porter, so now a power jam here for Bridgetown. 5 points, grand slam for Shreddy Mercury and the Bridgetown Menace. So an opportunity here early in the second half to try to chip away at that lead.
The pack, all kinds of spread out.
73 points the lead.
Allowing for an easy 5-point pass there for Shreddy Mercury.
Gatekeeper defensive contingent back to full strength as Blood Zeppelin re-enters play.
Captain Obvious doing his best offensive blocking, trying to get Shreddy Mercury through.
Wow. Corey Porter with some wizardry there as he almost gets knocked out of bounds, grabs onto his teammate's jersey and pulls himself back into play. Meanwhile, blocking out a play call on number 512, that's Cosmo Damage. Corey Porter coming back around, looking to score more points for St. Louis. This jam will go the full 2 minutes. Meanwhile, Corey Porter putting some nice points up on the board there. But Bridgetown Menace comes out ahead, 14 points on that jam to the Gatekeepers 9.
We'd like to give a quick shout out to Rob Lobster, longtime member of the Bridgetown Menace and also former coach of Rose City. He is fighting hard that fight against that dastardly cancer, and Raucous Ron would like to send out his love to Rob Lobster, who I'm sure would love to be here supporting the Bridgetown Menace.
Oh, nice move by David Metcalf as he kind of pogos his way around that inside line of turn 2. He's going to be your lead jammer here. First time for David Metcalf. So picks up 4 points there and calls that jam off. The crowd shows their approval. Next up on the Lebeda Roller Derby jammer line, it's going to be Screech Around for St. Louis going up against Munster for Bridgetown Menace. If you're just joining us, Bridgetown Menace in gray, St. Louis in black.
Munster with a great just burst through the middle of the pack. Gets lead jammer.
Screech Around also threw Tommy Gunn on his way to the penalty box. Did not see the call, but those shorts are easy to pick out of a crowd. Three points there for Bridgetown Menace as they try to chip away at this lead. Still early in the second half, just under 23 minutes to go. It's going to be Il Nino out there now for Bridgetown, going up against Shane Bauer for St. Louis. Shane Bauer leading all scorers with 44 points so far in this contest. Jukebox Hero and Defensive Destroyer trying to work on him, but Shane Bauer gets through, and he's going to be your lead jammer.
Big shot put into the midsection of Il Nino. Driven to the outside, recycled to the back of the pack.
Meanwhile, Shane Bauer knifes his way through the Bridgetown defense, picks up 5 more points. A grand slam there for St. Louis. Defensive Destroyer, Jukebox Hero, and Tommy Gunn at the back of the pack. And they barely force Shane Bauer out. Jukebox Hero and Shane Bauer enjoying some smack talk between each other. Good friends, those two.
A moment of levity in the middle of a battle.
We do miss Jukebox Hero very much here in St. Louis. Always good to see him back in town.
We would like to thank Quick Bearings. When you want quality, think Quick. We'd also like to thank Powerdyne. Powerdyne, cutting-edge designs, cutting-edge performance. That is Powerdyne.
So it's going to be Magnum PIMP against Shreddy Mercury this jam. Ooh, big pile up there right at the antic jammer, or at the antic pivot line.
And with some fancy footwork, a hop, skip, and a jump gets Shreddy Mercury out with lead jammer for the Bridgetown Menace.
Bridgetown does find themselves in a bit of trouble, though, as Cosmo Damage and Captain Obvious both in the penalty box now. Bridgetown does do a nice job speeding up the pack, only allowing Shreddy Mercury to score 1 point. No points for St. Louis on that jam. So a 4-on-2 pack advantage to begin this jam here as Captain Obvious and Cosmo Damage still sit in the penalty box. It's going to be Defensive Destroyer and Jukebox Hero out there defensively for Bridgetown. Percy Control, Incredible Hulk, Monster Jam, and Saint out there defensively for St. Louis. And it's going to be Screech Around taking on Munster. Oh, nice move on the inside there by Screech Around, and he's your lead jammer. Meanwhile, Munster with a nice little apex jump. He gets out quickly, so that they're going to be able to limit the damage here that Screech Around can put on this defensive deficiency. So Screech Around with a nice little hop to the inside, picks up 4 points, and then quickly calls that jam off. So much like the first half, a flurry of jams here. Already into jam 8 here in the second half, and we're just barely a third of the way through the second half.
Indeed, this is a fast and furious pace.
So almost on pace for another 24 jams here in the second half. Corey Porter out there now jamming for St. Louis. And Don Juan, and I think we're going to see a back block call on Don Juan. So power jam situation here for Corey Porter of the St. Louis Gatekeepers. Corey Porter trying to force his way through. All 4 defenders for Bridgetown up there. Now Kyle Stark trying to give some offensive blocking. Oh, man. Corey Porter just gets slammed. Corey Porter fighting his way through, gets forced out, though, so he's going to have to cycle back as Tommy Gunn tries to cycle him back. Spin Diesel out there just hammering people.
Impressive penalty kill by the Bridgetown Menace.
So all that, and Don Juan back around. It looks like he's going to be scoring points here, maybe. Nope, looks like this is his initial pass, so he won't be scoring any points here. Corey Porter still trying to get through. So we still do not have a lead jammer, and we only have about 30 seconds left here in this jam. So big-time defensive work by both squads. So Don Juan gets through, completes his initial pass. Corey Porter, almost gets, he does get lead jammer and calls that jam off.
It's a bit sad for the Bridgetown Menace going through all of that, holding it up that long. Don Juan is scant seconds away from scoring points, and Porter gets through and calls it off.
Yeah, heads-up play there by Corey Porter, knowing right where Don Juan was. As soon as he heard that whistle and looked over and saw that pointing at him, he called that jam off quickly. So the score now, Gatekeepers 144, Bridgetown Menace 55, just under 17 minutes to go here in the second half. And that is David Metcalf out there for St. Louis again, and that is El Nino out there for Bridgetown. Metcalf thought he had a line on the outside, but it closed quickly. Meanwhile, El Nino just Fruit Wallop left to beat. Percy Control gives Fruit Wallop a nice push, and that forces him out. I think that probably should have been a track cut, but it's no call. Again, we don't have the angle that the refs do.
We would like to thank Rydell, handcrafted quality roller skates for 70 years. Rydell Skates. Also like to thank ArmorFlex. ArmorFlex provides an added protection to withstand any hit from the competition. That is ArmorFlex.
It's a little confusing on the Bridgetown Menace bench as they needed to field another skater, so they end up using a timeout there instead. So we're going to have ourselves a timeout. Looks like the Bridgetown coach went out there to say something to Mistrial, who is now conferring with the rest of the referees, maybe just wanting a clarification or simply saying, hey, I'm seeing this. Are you seeing it? You know, as the coaches like to go out there and sometimes just kind of put a bug in the ref's ear saying, hey, so-and-so's pulling on somebody or so-and-so's pushing off, hoping that they'll get a call later on in the game. That's probably what happened there.
And some really, really good ref crews this weekend. So it's one of those things, if you know, a coach goes out and say, hey, I'm seeing this, I'm sure the refs are seeing it too.
Yeah. Yeah, the reffing has been absolutely fantastic so far this weekend, and here we are, we're still only on day one, and these ref crews are doing a fantastic job because I'll tell you what, these games have been really brutal physically, and, you know, hats off to these referees as they are making some fantastic calls. And a track cut call on Magnum PIMP, so a power jam situation here for, that's Munster out there jamming for Bridgetown.
Munster hasn't seen the track as much as the rest of the Bridgetown Menace jamming corps, but he has proven himself to be very agile, very quick. I think he's quickly earning himself a spot on that rotation.
So St. Louis successfully kills the penalty as Magnum PIMP comes back out and then just shoots right through. So an opportunity here for Munster still to get lead jammer. Magnum PIMP ineligible. So instead, Munster decides to go on the defensive. Interesting tactic here, and then Munster attacks, trying to get through, hoping to catch him off guard, but Monster Jam and Spin Diesel having none of it. And there they go. They get the track cut there as Munster did not notice Spin Diesel, but Magnum PIMP also with a track cut. So we're going to play some musical chairs there in the Roller Derby Elite penalty box. So we have a star handoff to Spin Diesel, but he's cycled back. Meanwhile, Munster still trying to work against Monster Jam. I believe that's Kyle Stark and Bled Zeppelin.
Number 8, Miller, tries to assert some sort of offensive blocking to help Munster through, but that gatekeeper defense at the front was very sturdy.
Yeah. So all that skating and only 4 points to show for it. St. Louis with 4 points on that jam. That brings the score St. Louis 148, Bridgetown Menace 55 with 13:50 to go here in the second half.
I'd like to thank Persephone's Treasures. Persephone's Treasures is here, obviously, in the building, but you got a derby tournament, contact Persephone's Treasures. You can get your name and number on shirts, over 50 different types of shirts with glitter. You can offer custom heat printing, full color printing, rhinestones, all that stuff. So contact Persephone's Treasures. We've got lead jammer going to Shane Bauer of the Gatekeepers. He's jamming against Shreddy Mercury for the Bridgetown Menace.
So Shane Bauer going to call that jam off. So it looks like 3 points, sorry, for St. Louis. So Shane Bauer now with 55 points here in this contest, leading all scorers. Shreddy Mercury, the lead scorer so far for Bridgetown with 27. It looks like we're going to see Bane Anna on skates now out there jamming for Bridgetown. I believe this is the first time he has jammed for them today. Here in this match, I should say. Screech around out there for St. Louis. And Bane Anna being sent off. I did not see the call. It looks like a back block call on Bane Anna. So now a power jam for Screech around as Defensive Destroyer just crushes him outside there at the Antec pivot line. Screech around trying to work his way on the inside. Interesting style there by Screech around as he kind of like hops through the pack there on that outside line, but it's effective as he picks up 5 points there. A grand slam for St. Louis.
Very impressive toe stop work. Up on those toe stops, making quick little jump steps to the sides, trying to get through. It's benefiting him greatly as another 5-point pass for Screech around.
So a call off there, which a well-timed call off as Bane Anna still stands in the penalty box. So the next jam, it will be Corey Porter starting unopposed on the Lebeda Roller Derby jammer line. It would be a very short power jam, however, as I do believe Bane only had a few seconds left.
It's always amazing, just that little advantage, that extra 2 or 3 seconds out on the track by yourself.
Well, it can mean everything because it allows the defensive schema of St. Louis to bridge back. Meanwhile, Corey Porter is your lead jammer, and Tommy Gunn's going to get a blocking out of play penalty. So the power jam has come to an end. Bane Anna trying to work through Fruit Wall up and Percy Control. Percy Control, meanwhile, forces Bane out. Knows Bane's going out and cycles all the way back to turn 2. Meanwhile, 4 points for Corey Porter as St. Louis stretches this lead now. This St. Louis defense is really clamped down here in the second half. Just really not allowing Bridgetown any room to work. Other than a couple situations where they were down a couple jammers, that allowed Bridgetown to get some points on the board. 5 more points there for Corey Porter. Oh, wow. Incredible Hulk just crushed Bane Anna. Just kind of flung him out of play, and we get a penalty on Bane Anna.
Gotta feel bad there, getting crushed, and then you get a penalty.
Kind of adding a little bit of insult to injury there. Meanwhile, Corey Porter is going to call that jam off after being forced out.
And Tommy Gunn doing an excellent job there, forcing him out.
A big, big jam there for Corey Porter. 19 points on that jam. And that was an even strength jam. Just goes to the testament of how well the Gatekeepers defense is playing.
We're going to get an official review from the Bridgetown Menace. So that'd be a good time to talk to you about this. The MRDA. With its ever-growing membership expanding worldwide, the MRDA is excited to announce it will be holding 3 playoff tournaments to determine who qualifies for the 2016 championships. 2 of the playoffs will be held in North America, and 1 will be held in Europe. Bidding for the tournaments will begin shortly. Does your local MRDA team want to host one? I would say not even your local MRDA team, maybe your local, whatever. WFTDA team maybe wants to host one.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason they shouldn't. I mean, that'd be a great opportunity to, if say a WFTDA league is maybe interested in trying to get some of their guys to play, bringing an MRDA playoff tournament to your hometown might really get those guys fired up and maybe get your home team started.
Indeed. I know my home league has been trying to start an MRDA team for a couple of years now, and you're right. Get in here and see this kind of level of competition, these amazing athletes. That's what it's done for the WFTDA is you get in that, you see that amazing thing. My home league hosted a D1 playoff a couple of years ago. To see those level of skaters got people jazzed and pumped, and our recruitment that year was, off the charts. So it's one of those situations where, yeah, if you want to host one of these tournaments, bidding for that will open shortly. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, you bring up a great point, Mulligan. When the St. Louis Gatekeepers hosted back in 2012, we definitely saw an uptick in recruitment, immediately after the championship. So it definitely brings some more interest about players that may have been on the fence, potential players that may have been on the fence. I don't know about roller derby. And then they come in and see this and like, yeah, roller derby. Let's play.
Yeah. I know a bunch of guys back in Fort Wayne that play roller hockey or ice hockey that they're like, I don't know about derby. And I'm like, if you watch this, if you see this level of competition, I would show the London and New York game to anyone and say, roller derby, watch it.
Yeah, if you missed that game earlier, well, it's very unfortunate because that was definitely the game of the day so far. It came down to the very last jam.
Of course, the game in front of it, who I cannot for the life of me remember, I probably shouldn't have started the sentence without information. That game was amazing as well. So, back to the action. Taking a big shot, almost staying up, is Metcalf, lead jammer for the Gatekeepers.
Yeah. Now all the Gatekeepers jammers getting in on the one-hand out action. I'll tell you what, Metcalf looked like he was shot out of a cannon. He got around that track so fast. He's doing a nice job staying in play. And then finds a line on the outside. That's going to be 5 points. Grand slam. David Metcalf, as we are now closing in on the 9-minute mark here in the second half. Oh, my word. And now we've got another track cut on Bane Anna.
He will head back to the Derby Elite penalty box.
On the penalty front, keep an eye out on Captain Obvious. Not out on the track right now, but he's sitting on 6. Bled Zeppelin, who is on the track right now, is sitting on 5. Meanwhile, David Metcalf picks up 5 more points for St. Louis as they are starting to pour it on here in the waning moments of the second half. David Metcalf picks up 5 more points, looks over and sees Bane Anna standing in the Derby Elite penalty box and quickly calls that jam off. Smart move there by David Metcalf. I'll tell you what, Bridgetown has been playing a fantastic game here, but they just have not been able to put scoring passes together.
And it's one of those situations where you start to let mistakes compound upon themselves. Bane Anna is finding this out, as I believe this is now his 3rd or 4th jam in a row being the jammer. Keeps picking up penalties.
So it looks like we're going to see an attempted pass to Munster. Now we got the pass to Munster. But Shane Bauer is out, lead jammer, and he has 4 points racked up so quickly. Shane Bauer picks up a couple more and calls that jam off as he's forced out of play.
Even in the, with a little under 7 minutes left, Gatekeepers out to a substantial lead. The Gatekeepers keep playing that fundamental derby, like right there. They skated up as not to be that easy point that Munster could get coming around at the end of that jam. That's what the good ones do. They practice those fundamentals and they don't let themselves, even in a game where they are very much ahead with 6 minutes left, they're not playing sloppy.
Yep. So Don Juan out there jamming. Bled Zeppelin picks up his 6th. Track cut call. Don Juan's going to be your lead jammer. Magnum PIMP out there for St. Louis as he weaves his way through, and he's free. So Gatekeepers down 2 blockers. Monster Jam standing in the Derby Elite penalty box. Jukebox Hero standing in the Derby Elite penalty box. They will both re-enter play.
Don Juan, just as quick as they come on their skates, picks up 3 more on that last pass. He took a big shot earlier in the jam. I want to say it was from maybe Spin Diesel, and took a shot and just, it stood him up, but he kept skating right away, and couldn't imagine going that speed and slamming into someone like Spin Diesel and being like, well, I'm good.
Yeah, those 3 points brings Don Juan to 25 points total for this contest. And it's going to be Shreddy Mercury out there on the jammer line for Bridgetown, going up against Screech Around for St. Louis. And Shreddy Mercury is going to be your lead jammer as Screech Around is stuck in the back of the pack. Some nice defensive work here by Bridgetown. Both teams now at full strength as Bled Zeppelin re-enters play. Remember, Bled Zeppelin sitting on 6 penalties, so we'll have to keep an eye on that here.
Shreddy Mercury almost skating with a renewed sense of vigor, just going at the Gatekeepers.
Yep, and now we're going to have a power jam as Screech Around heads to the penalty box for a forearm call. Jam called off after 5 points put on the board.
Shreddy Mercury was going to call it off there. He had been knocked out, didn't want to recycle, was going to call it off, sees the Gatekeeper jammer going to the box and was like, oh, I probably should have got back on the track, but calls it off anyways, so they'll get the full 30-minute power, 30-minute, wow, that would be crazy, 30-second power jam.
Well, I'll say there's only 4 minutes left. That's kind of a waste of a giant power jam, isn't it? So Don Juan out there unopposed, and he quickly gets through. He's going to get lead jammer. Kyle Stark not happy with that, but I really think at this point it's, not that big of a deal, but Kyle Stark very emotional when it comes to mental lapses. And meanwhile, Don Juan with a jumping spin apex jump.
And got hit in the air and landed backwards. That is talent.
And that's going to be a back block as Don Juan decides to try to skate through Nat King Kill. You know, Nat King Kill does take up space. You do have to skate around him. A supreme display of physics there. 2 objects cannot occupy the same space.
I've heard as much.
So that's going to result in a power jam here for Screech Around.
And it looks like Defensive Destroyer is going to draw that track cut from Screech Around.
Yeah, it's been a bit of an interesting last moments here in this game as there's been a flurry of jammer penalties.
Nice, smooth skating from Don Juan. Picks up a 5-point pass for the Bridgetown Menace.
It's almost like the players are figuring, hey, they give you 7 penalties, might as well use them. It's not like you get to take them to the next game.
Don Juan shrugs off a hit. Picks up another 5-point pass.
Bridgetown closing in on the 100-point mark. 82 points right now on the board. Power jam comes to an end as Screech Around re-enters play, but Defensive Destroyer heads to the penalty box. Don Juan being stymied at the back of the pack right now. And that jam comes to an end. So just over 2 minutes left here, and I think we have a timeout called by Bridgetown.
Our Shop Gifts is your home for unique Derby swag. Our artists, our Derby, our Shop Gifts. Stop by and get you some.
Arr, matey.
Arr.
Stop by and get yourself some booty.
Oh, now. Whoa.
You know, pirate treasure, booty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know.
Huh. I tried this joke earlier and it failed, so might as well try it again. Hey, Hammer, what is a pirate's favorite letter?
I don't know.
You're supposed to say R.
Oh.
Say it.
Well, that was just kind of obvious. So I didn't want to go with the obvious. So,
well,
R.
Nah, 'tis be the sea. See?
Ooh.
See what I did there? I'll gather my things. I'll go. But not before 2 minutes and 8 seconds left in this bout. We got the Gatekeepers with a 2:15. The Bridgetown Menace with 85.
So with the outcome of this game all but wrapped up. The St. Louis Gatekeepers are going to look to play this one clean and just stay out of trouble. So penalty call and Percy control. Corey Porter out there jamming for St. Louis. And the Saint able to draw the track cut on Il Nino.
Il Nino looking to hit somebody there. Actually missed the hit and then went out of bounds because of that. Who was that? Oh, Saint stepped back and drew the track cut.
Yeah, interesting chain of events there.
So I believe it will be the Gatekeepers versus the Shock Exchange tomorrow?
Yes, it will. A storied rivalry between those two franchises. So 45 seconds left here.
I remember watching them at Spring Roll in a bit of a infamous...
There have been many memorable bouts between St. Louis and New York, and we're going to see another one first thing tomorrow morning, I believe, at 9 a.m., I think. Can you check my schedule?
Can't go wrong with a 2 seed versus a 3 seed. That's just bound to lead to amazing derby.
That's right. Game 7, first game of the day at 9 a.m.
Stick around after this game. We got another one, the last game of the night. It's going to be your mom going up against...
Wait, my mom?
Yes, maybe. And we'll get back to that. We got some action headed on the track. Oh, and the action is over. I am sorry. Spoke through the entire last jam.
That's okay.
I won't be invited back tomorrow.